Welcome, students. Let's continue our chapter Coal and Petroleum. So far, we have discussed the formation of coal and the products that are obtained from coal. Now, we will discuss another exhaustible natural resource, another fossil fuel, that is petroleum. Students, petroleum, it is a dark colored, thick crude oil that is found deep under the earth, under the ground in certain areas. It has an unpleasant odor, and the name petroleum, that means rock oil, because the word petra, that means rock, and oleum means oil. So basically, petroleum is known as rock oil. It's called rock oil. It is called petroleum because it is found under the crust of the earth, trapped in rocks. That is why it's called rock oil, because it's trapped in rocks under the crust of the earth. And yeah, students, this petroleum, it is not a single compound. In fact, it is a mixture of compounds, complex mixture of compounds that are known as hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons are the compounds which are made up of only two elements, that is carbon and hydrogen. That is why the name hydrocarbon, hydrogen carbons. So basically, petroleum is made of the mixture of compounds, and those compounds are known as hydrocarbons. They are made of hydrogen and carbon. And you know that petroleum is insoluble in water. And the most important thing, that it is a natural resource that is obtained from deep oil wells which are dug in certain areas of the earth. And just like coal, petroleum is also a fossil fuel, and it's also called crude oil or mineral oil. Now the question arises, how was petroleum formed? See, students, petroleum was formed by the decomposition of the remains of tiny plants and animals buried under the sea millions of years ago. So, about millions of years ago, what happened? The tiny plants and animals which lived in the sea died, and their dead bodies, they sank to the bottom of the sea, and then were covered with mud, they were covered with sand, sediments. Now, due to intense pressure, heat, and the action of bacteria, and most importantly, oxygen was not present there. In the absence of air, what happened? The dead remains of these tiny plants and animals got slowly converted into petroleum. So the petroleum thus formed got trapped between two layers of impervious rocks, and thus forming an oil deposit there. Now, petroleum, it occurs deep under the surface of the earth between two layers of impervious rocks. Impervious, like, it means porous rocks. That means the rocks trapped this petroleum. Petroleum can't escape from these rocks, so it got deposited there. So you know that petroleum, it is lighter than water, and so it floats over water. You can see in the diagram here. Petroleum oil deposits are usually found mixed with water, salt, and earth particles, sand, etc. And it doesn't occur in all the places of earth. It's found only in certain areas of the earth. And yeah, natural gas is that also occurs above the petroleum oil, trapped under the rocks. Now the question arises, how can we obtain petroleum then? If petroleum is deep under the earth, trapped between the rocks. So it's extracted by drilling holes that are called oil wells in the earth's crust, and where the presence of oil has been predicted by survey, there these holes are dug. Okay, so these oil wells are drilled by using drilling rigs. Drilling rig is a large structure with equipment for drilling an oil well. Okay, so when an oil well is drilled through the rocks, natural gas comes out first with greater pressure, and then for a time the crude petroleum oil comes out by itself due to gas pressure. But yes, after the gas pressure subsided, petroleum is pumped out of the oil well. Okay, so some wells dug into the earth yield both petroleum and natural gas, but some wells yield only natural gas but no oil. And in fact, students, early drilling of oil wells for getting petroleum was done only on land. But later on, oil wells were also drilled under the seabed by using new techniques. So, some of the oil wells are now drilled under the sea for the extraction of petroleum. In fact, the world's first oil well was drilled in Pennsylvania, that is in USA, in 1859. And then 8 years later, in 1867, oil was struck at Makumen, Assam. Okay, and in India, petroleum oil is found in various places like in Assam, Gujarat, Mumbai High, near the basins of Godavari and Krishna rivers. So, the oil deposits of Mumbai High are buried at a depth of about 1,000 meters below the seabed, and a special platform of steel has been erected in Mumbai High Sea to pump out petroleum from under the seabed. Okay. Now, since I told you that petroleum it's a crude oil, that means it's a complex mixture of solid, liquid, and gaseous hydrocarbons. And it's not very useful to us as such. So, before petroleum can be used for specific purposes, it has to be refined, it has to be purified. So, the process of separating crude petroleum oil into more useful fractions, into more useful substances, that is called the refining. So, refining is actually the separation of petroleum into different fractions. And yeah, students, this refining it's based on the fact that different fractions of petroleum have different boiling point ranges. So basically we can separate the different fractions of petroleum because of the different boiling ranges. If the boiling range won't be different, then we can't separate them. So the refining is based on this, that the different substances, different fractions of petroleum, they are having different boiling point ranges, and that makes the separation easy. Okay. And yeah, this refining of petroleum is carried out in an oil refinery. Okay. So, this crude petroleum oil is extracted from oil wells, then it is taken to the oil refinery through pipes. And in oil refinery, crude petroleum oil is refined. It's separated into different useful fractions. And yeah, students, the separation of petroleum into different fractions is done by the process of fractional distillation. That process by which we separate the petroleum fractions, that is called fractional distillation, in which the fractions of petroleum having different boiling point ranges are collected separately. Now, the various useful fractions that are obtained by the refining of petroleum are petroleum gas, petrol, kerosene, diesel, lubricating oil, paraffin, wax, bitumen. Lots of important useful fractions are obtained by refining of petroleum. Now, um, let's look at the important uses of the various fractions of petroleum. Okay, let's start with petroleum gas. So, students, petroleum gas it is used as a fuel in homes and industry. You are aware about it, right? It's used as a fuel as such, or in the form of liquefied petroleum gas, that is also called LPG, right? That we use in our homes for cooking purposes, right? So, petrol it is used as a fuel, in fact, in motor vehicles. So the another product is petrol, and again it's used in light motor vehicles as a fuel in cars, motorcycles, and it is also used as a solvent for dry cleaning. So next product is kerosene. Kerosene again it is obtained from petroleum, and it is used as a fuel in wick stoves, in pressure stoves to cook food, and it's also used in lanterns for lighting purposes. Maybe you have saw those lanterns which work on kerosene. And a special grade of kerosene oil is also used as aviation fuel in jet airplanes. Next, another product is diesel. This diesel it is used as a fuel in heavy motor vehicles. Petrol is used as a fuel in light motor vehicles, and diesel is used as a fuel in heavy motor vehicles like buses, trucks, tractors, train engines, diesel train engines. Okay, And it's also used to run pump sets for irrigation in agriculture and in electric generators to produce electricity on small scale. Okay. Then the another fraction is lubricating oil. It's used for lubrication in machines and engines, like car engines. We use lubrication oil there. Then comes paraffin wax. It's used for making candles, Vaseline, ointments, wax paper, grease. In fact, you may have saw the composition of Vaseline. Paraffin wax is always there. Next product is bitumen. It's used for road surfacing. It's also used for waterproofing the roofs of buildings. Students, as I told you in the previous lecture, coal tar was used for road surfacing, for leveling of the roads. But nowadays, bitumen is used for road surfacing instead of coal tar. Okay, and bitumen is also used in making black paints. Okay, so these are all the products, these are all the fractions which you obtain from petroleum. And yeah, students, these fuels like petroleum gas, petrol, kerosene, diesel, these are also fossil fuels because they are obtained from a major fossil fuel. They are obtained from petroleum, and petroleum is a major fossil fuel, right? So they are also fossil fuels. And the most common fuel is that is used in homes, that is liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, right? And this LPG, actually what petroleum gas which is obtained from petroleum, this petroleum gas is liquefied, and when it's liquefied under pressure, then it is used in cylinders. Cylinders are filled with it. So basically petroleum gas which has been liquefied under pressure is called LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. And liquefied petroleum gas, it mainly consists of butane, and which has been liquefied again by applying pressure. Okay. And yeah, domestic gas landers like Indane, they also contain, mainly they contain butane. So students, the gas used for domestic cooking is liquefied petroleum gas because it is obtained from petroleum, and then it is liquefied by compression before filling into the gas cylinders. And when we turn the knob of the gas cylinder, pressure is released, due to which this highly volatile LPG is converted into gas. And this gas goes into the burner of stove, LPG stove, and when a lighted matchstick is applied to the burner, gas burns with a blue flame, producing a lot of heat, right? So this heat is used for cooking food in homes. So what I'm trying to say is that this LPG which we use in our homes is actually the petroleum gas obtained from petroleum, and in fact it is a good fuel because it's having various advantages, like it burns easily, it's having high calorific value, that is it produces a lot of heat, it burns with a smokeless flame, it doesn't cause any pollution because it burns with smokeless flame. Okay. And it doesn't produce any poisonous gases on burning, it doesn't leave behind any solid residue on burning. So it's a very good fuel, LPG. Okay. And this was all about the petroleum and the fractions that are obtained from the petroleum. Thank you.